My name is Claire Thompson, and I'm 45 years old. To the outside world, it looked like I had it all. I ran a thriving real estate agency with my name etched on the glass door of a spacious office in Harrison City. My workspace sat high in a sleek tower, overlooking the skyline. I had a beautiful 15-year-old daughter named Emily, whose intelligence and talent lit up every room. My husband David was working abroad in Singapore, leading an overseas construction project that paid too well to refuse. On paper, I was a success story. But the truth? I was surviving on exhaustion and whispered prayers. I built everything I had from scratch, no favors, no shortcuts. My agency wasn't passed down. It was the result of long nights, failed deals, client rejections, and personal sacrifices few ever saw. When David was transferred overseas for what was supposed to be a one-year project, I slipped into solo parenting mode like I always did, quietly, competently. Emily became both my strength and my sanctuary. She had her father's patience and my intensity. She was brilliant, creative, and had a voice that could silence a crowd when she sang. Our life had rhythm: early breakfast chats over cereal, school drop-offs with playlists, and movie nights on weekends. Every evening, we FaceTimed David. Emily never missed a call.
But there was another side to my life.
A side I didn't show anyone. My mother, Sandra, and my younger sister, Melissa, were the constant shadows I couldn't shake. They depended on me, financially. After my father passed away 5 years ago, I discovered he'd left behind unpaid debts, not savings. Sandra's lifestyle, once propped up by appearances, crumbled. I couldn't stand the idea of her losing her home, so I started covering her rent, around $1,900 every month. Melissa was another story. She'd struggled for years, single mother, underemployed, and emotionally erratic. I started sending her $750 monthly to cover her son Noah's school fees and basic costs. That meant nearly $1,700 quietly drained from my account every single month for over 3 years. At first, I did it without thinking. I had the means. They needed help. It was the right thing to do. But over time, gratitude vanished. Instead of appreciation, I was met with demands. Instead of updates, I received guilt trips. You send Emily to a private school and travel for work. You can spare a little for family. Don't forget who raised you. The love had turned into leverage. The help became a burden. Worse, I started seeing things online: Sandra posting rooftop brunches, Melissa flaunting new purses, Noah wearing sneakers that cost more than what I spent on groceries for a week. Meanwhile, I was cutting corners to save for Emily's college. And every time David asked, "Claire, are you sure this isn't too much?" I nodded and lied. It's fine. But I wasn't fine. And everything finally broke the moment I said no. It all unraveled on a Thursday morning. The day started like any other, chaotic, busy, and stacked with meetings. I had a trip planned to Greenville, where I was scheduled to pitch a major redevelopment deal. It was just 2 days out of town. Nothing big. Nothing dramatic. Emily was finishing her toast when I stepped into the kitchen, suitcase in one hand, travel mug in the other. She was humming a song for choir practice, her long hair pulled back into a neat ponytail. Her eyes still held that soft, sleepy look that melted me every time. My girl. My reason for everything. "You'll be okay at Grandma's, right?" I asked, trying to sound casual as I set the mug down on the counter. She hesitated. It wasn't long, barely 2 seconds, but I noticed. I should have paid more attention. "Yeah," she finally said with a small smile. "It's only 2 nights. I'll just stay in my room." That phrase, "stay in my room." That's how she coped with discomfort, quietly, without confrontation. David wasn't home. He was still finishing his final month in Singapore. Emily never let him see how much she missed him. That vulnerability was always saved for me, usually late at night, when the video call ended, and she'd curl up beside me in silence. I walked her to the door and adjusted the collar of her jacket. "If anything feels wrong," I said quietly, "you call me. Right away. Don't wait." "I know, Mom," she whispered. "I will." I hugged her tighter than usual before we parted. My gut was whispering something I couldn't quite understand yet. As I got in the car for the airport, my phone buzzed.
Claire, call me.
It's urgent. Then another message. Noah's school trip needs payment today, $580. Please don't ignore this. And then, you're being unfair again. I hadn't even boarded my flight, and the guilt texts had started. I had just sent them $1,700 5 days ago, like clockwork, as I had for over 3 years. Enough. I couldn't do this anymore. Sitting in the airport lounge, I stared at my phone for a few minutes before finally dialing Melissa. She picked up on the first ring. Finally. Melissa, I said, calm but firm. I can't send any more money right now. I've done more than I can afford. Her tone turned instantly hostile.
Wow.
You're really counting pennies with your own sister? You can fly first class and send your kid to a fancy school, but Noah can't go on one school trip? I've already sent money this month, I replied. And this isn't about a trip. This is about boundaries. There was a pause. And then came the poison. You've always looked down on us. Just because you have some office and a shiny life, you think you're better than the rest of us. I didn't respond to the insult. I saw it clearly now. This wasn't about family. It was about control. I'm done, Melissa, I said. No more guilt. No more money. No more manipulation. I love you, but this is the last time we're having this conversation. Before she could reply, I hung up. I boarded my flight with shaking hands, not because I felt guilty, but because I knew I had just done something irreversible. I had finally drawn a line. I didn't know how far they'd go to punish me for that, but I was about to find out. The next morning, I was in the middle of reviewing contracts when I noticed Emily hadn't messaged me. Not even a casual. Grandma's making weird soup again. No updates. No emojis. No little texts she usually sent while I was away. By lunchtime, my unease turned into something colder, fear. I stepped out of the conference room and into the hallway of the client's office, checking my phone again.
Still nothing.
Then it rang. Emily. Relief hit me in a wave, until I heard her voice. It wasn't her usual calm tone. She was breathing hard, her words rushed and trembling. Mom, she got mad, really mad. She yanked my hair and then slapped me. Hard. I fell and hit my elbow. It's bleeding. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I stopped breathing. Emily, I said, steadying my voice, where are you right now? In the living room. Grandma's in the kitchen. Noah just ran upstairs. I don't think he cares. My heart was pounding so loudly I could barely hear. Okay, baby. Listen to me. Don't move. Don't say anything. I'm calling the police right now. Help is coming. Please hurry, she whispered. It really hurts. I ended the call and immediately dialed 911. This is Claire Thompson, I said, trying to hold back my panic. My daughter, she's 15. She's been assaulted at her grandmother's house. Hair pulling, slapped across the face. She's injured, she's alone, and she's scared. The dispatcher's voice was calm, quick. Units are on the way. Paramedics, too. Do you have anyone else who can reach her?
No.
I'm in Greenville on business. There's no one else. Please just get there fast. They promised they would. Next, I called my assistant, Naomi. Cancel all my appointments. Book me the next flight to Harrison. And I need legal prep started now. Restraining orders, emergency guardianship, freeze all financial access from Sandra and Melissa. Today. I'm on it, Naomi said without hesitation. Then I called Emily back. She answered on the first ring. Sweetheart, the police and paramedics are coming. You'll be safe. I'm getting on a plane right now. She was crying softly now. She said it was my fault, that you didn't send money again, and I needed to learn a lesson. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just an outburst. It was a message, and my daughter was the one used to deliver it. 40 minutes later, Officer Harris called. Miss Thompson, your daughter is safe. She's at Rivergate General. She has a bruised cheek, a sprained elbow, and a shallow cut on her arm. She's shaken but stable. And Sandra? I asked, my voice ice. She's in custody, charged with assaulting a minor. Melissa and her son were present. Neither stepped in. I clenched my jaw. Understood, I said. I'll be there by tonight. As I ended the call, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. This wasn't a family dispute. This was abuse. And now it was war. My flight landed just after 11:30 p.m. I didn't even wait for my luggage. I had Naomi send someone to pick it up later. My only destination was Rivergate General Hospital, where Emily was being treated. The ride through the city felt endless. Every red light dragged. Every turn felt too slow. I wasn't a mother heading home. I was a storm on legs. When I arrived at the emergency entrance, Officer Harris was already waiting inside. He met me near the glass doors with a respectful nod, his voice low and calm. She's stable, he told me. Doctors treated the injuries, no fractures, just a sprain and some surface wounds. But the emotional trauma, that's going to take time. I swallowed hard and nodded. Where is she? Room 209. A nurse has been with her until you arrived. I walked down that hallway faster than I probably should have. My heart was pounding in my ears. When I pushed open the door, the world seemed to hold its breath. There she was, Emily, curled up on the hospital bed, her arm in a sling, a soft bandage on her cheek. Her eyes were half open, red, tired, but still looking for me. When she saw me, she sat up immediately, like she'd been holding her breath until I came. Mom. I rushed to her side and wrapped her in my arms, holding her so tightly it was as if I could glue her broken pieces back together by sheer will. She trembled against me. She didn't even say anything at first. She just screamed, grabbed me, pulled my hair, and then slapped me so hard I hit the floor. I didn't fight back. I didn't even know what was happening. I closed my eyes, steadying myself. You did the right thing, sweetheart. You called me. And now you're safe. That's all that matters. We stayed like that for a while, her head against my shoulder, my arms locked around her like armor. The fear, the hurt, the betrayal, it all sat between us like smoke. Then there was a gentle knock on the door. A soft-voiced woman in a calm blue blouse stepped in. I'm Dr. Chun, the on-call therapist. I'd like to speak with Emily for a few minutes, if that's all right. I glanced at Emily, who gave a small nod. I stepped into the hallway and stood by the window, trying to slow my thoughts. Everything I'd avoided, every warning sign I dismissed, was crashing down now, hard and unforgiving. And then, I did what I'd been dreading all day. I called David. He picked up after 2 rings, his voice groggy from the time difference. Hey, Claire. How'd the pitch go? I'm at the hospital, I said. I heard him sit up immediately. What happened? I told him everything. Every word. Every bruise. Every whisper Emily had managed to get out between sobs. I told him about the slap, the fall, the bleeding, the arrest. There was silence. Not the distant kind. The devastated kind. I'm on the first flight back, he said, his voice trembling. I should have been there. I didn't call to make you feel guilty, I whispered. I just thought you should know. I don't care. I'll be there now. That's what matters. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a thread of strength wrap around me again. Emily needed both of us now, and we wouldn't fail her again. The next morning, Emily was discharged from the hospital. Her arms still sore and wrapped in a sling, she moved slowly but held my hand tightly as we walked to the car. Neither of us said much on the ride home. She stared quietly out the window, eyes distant, not angry, just shattered. The kind of silence that comes when someone you trusted turns on you. When we got home, I helped her into bed, pulled the comforter over her shoulders, and kissed her forehead gently. I'll be in the next room, I said. I'm not going anywhere. As I started to turn, she asked softly, Mom, will she hurt someone else now? I turned back to face her.
No.
She won't hurt anyone again. I'm going to make sure of it. The next morning, the house was still. Not peaceful, just quiet. Emily was still asleep upstairs. I hadn't slept at all. I spent most of the night at the dining table, poring over the police report and hospital documentation. Every detail, every timeline, every bruise. By 7 a.m., I was already in my home office, legal pads stacked, folders opened, caffeine fueling my resolve. At exactly 7:15, Ethan, my firm's senior legal advisor and an old friend, stepped into the room. He didn't ask questions. He didn't offer sympathy. He just sat down, already flipping open his notepad. "I want her charged," I said, sliding a thick folder across the desk. Inside were photos of Emily's injuries, the hospital's treatment report, the 911 transcript, and building security footage I'd requested overnight from the lobby camera showing Emily arriving at Sandra's house unharmed. Ethan flipped through it with grim focus. "This is more than enough. We'll file for permanent no contact, full child abuse charges, and move to terminate any financial connection past or future. That includes rent and support to Melissa too. Naomi froze the secondary account last night," I added. "She flagged all payment authorizations and changed every login credential." "She's sharp," Ethan said. "She's loyal," I corrected him. Just then Naomi called. I put her on speaker. "Claire, Melissa tried to pull a transfer from the backup fund." I declined it immediately. She left 3 voicemails. "Your mother called 12 times between 2 and 6 a.m. I don't want to hear a word from either of them," I said flatly. "Just log everything. Every attempt. Every message." "You got it," she replied. As I hung up, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a direct message on an old account I hadn't checked in years. It was from Sandra. "Why would you call the police? Emily wasn't in real danger. It was just a lesson. You overreacted." A lesson? My jaw clenched, chest tight. She had pulled my daughter's hair, slapped her, injured her, and she dared to call it discipline? Ethan gently took the phone from me. "Don't respond," he said. "Let the court speak for you now." And in that moment, something inside me shifted, not out of rage, but out of clarity. Sandra wasn't my mother anymore. Later that afternoon, I picked Emily up from school. It was her first day back after the incident. She walked slowly, her sling tucked close to her body, but her eyes were steadier than before. When she saw me waiting outside, her face lit up, not brightly, but like a fragile light peeking through storm clouds. She climbed into the car quietly, buckled her seatbelt, and took the water bottle I handed her without a word. After a few minutes, she spoke. "I had a good day," she said softly. "Nobody asked too many questions. My teachers just smiled and said they were glad I was okay." I nodded. "Dr. Chin wants to keep the therapy sessions going weekly. She said they're helping." Emily paused, then looked over. "I want that too." There was a maturity in her tone I hadn't heard before. The kind that only comes from surviving something you didn't deserve. When we pulled into the driveway, she turned to me again. "Did you really cut them off? Grandma and Aunt Melissa?" I looked her straight in the eyes.
Yes. Completely.
No more calls. No more money. No more control. She let out a slow breath and leaned back into the seat, a soft smile curling on her lips. That smile told me everything. It wasn't just relief. It was safety. 2 days later, David arrived home from Singapore. Emily and I met him at the airport. She stood beside me, still wearing the sling, her backpack slung over her good shoulder. When David stepped through the arrival gate, Emily ran. She dropped her bag and launched into his arms like she'd been holding back every tear, every hug, every breath for weeks. He held her tight, one arm around her, the other hand stroking her hair. When he looked over her shoulder at me, his eyes were glassy. "I'm so sorry," he mouthed. I shook my head. "You're here now. That's all that matters." The drive home was quiet, not with tension, but with the calm that comes from just being together again. That evening, Emily sat at the piano. Her fingers hesitated at first, then found the keys. A few seconds later, her voice joined the melody she'd been practicing before the nightmare began. It was soft but steady. She was healing. And so were we. The next morning, we filed everything. Formal charges against Sandra for child abuse and physical assault on a minor. A permanent no-contact restraining order. and a petition to terminate all financial obligations, past and future. We had every piece of evidence needed. The hospital reports, photos of Emily's injuries, the recorded 911 call, security footage from the building hallway, and most damning of all, the message Sandra had sent me herself. It was just a lesson. When our court date was set, it felt unreal how fast things were moving. But I didn't flinch. I didn't hesitate. I didn't second-guess any of it. Sandra walked into the courtroom wearing a plain gray sweater and just enough makeup to look like a victim of misunderstanding, not a perpetrator of violence. Melissa sat behind her, arms crossed, eyes cold. They'd hired a lawyer who looked more like a traffic ticket specialist than someone ready for a felony case. He barely glanced at me, probably thought I'd crack under pressure. He had no idea who I was. Ethan stood beside me at the plaintiff's table. David sat right behind me. Emily waited outside with Naomi, away from the stress of the room. When it was my turn to speak, I rose with all the weight of a mother who had nothing left to lose and everything to protect. This isn't about a family disagreement, I told the judge. This is about a woman who believed that violence was an acceptable tool to regain control. She didn't just hit my daughter, she used her. As a weapon. As a message. That's not parenting. That's abuse. The judge didn't need long. The court finds Sandra Reynolds guilty of assault on a minor and child endangerment, he said, voice firm and final. She is sentenced to 4 years in state prison, with no eligibility for early parole. A permanent no-contact order is to be enforced immediately. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just stood there for a moment, completely still, before turning and walking out with David's hand in mine. In the weeks that followed, life slowly found its rhythm again. Not the old rhythm, the new one. Emily went back to school full-time. She still carried her arm close in the hallway. She still hesitated before answering questions. But those moments, they faded. Day by day, they disappeared like bruises under sunlight. She started raising her hand in class again, laughing again, sleeping deeply, eating with an appetite, smiling without flinching. Dr. Chin gave us an update during one of our follow-up sessions. She's not just coping, she said with a proud smile. She's recovering. And I believed it, because I could see it. We were replacing fear with peace, pain with music, obligation with choice. One Thursday afternoon, I was in my home office going over inspection reports when I heard footsteps rushing down the hallway. Emily burst into the room, cheeks pink, eyes sparkling, holding a crumpled sheet of paper in one hand and her phone in the other. "Mom," she said, almost out of breath. "Guess what?" Before I could answer, she waved the paper in front of me. My teacher picked my painting for the school art exhibition. She handed me the acceptance form and then turned her phone screen toward me. The photo showed her watercolor entry, a tall, defiant lighthouse standing strong in the middle of a stormy sea. Waves crashed hard, the sky was dark, but the lighthouse glowed with a quiet, powerful light. I stared at it, stunned, not just by the art, but by the symbolism. "It's you," she said softly. "You're the lighthouse." I blinked, trying not to let the tears spill over. "You're the strongest thing I know," she added. "Even when everything else went dark, you kept the light on." I turned away for a second, pretending to adjust a file on my desk. Not because I didn't want her to see me cry, but because in that moment I realized something. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were rising. A few days later, a plain white envelope arrived in our mailbox. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting the moment I saw it.
Sandra.
I opened it slowly, more out of curiosity than anything else. It was a single sentence. "I won't ask for forgiveness anymore. I just hope you and Emily are doing well." That was it. No apology. No ownership. Just a hollow sentence from someone who had lost the right to call herself family. I read it once. Then I walked to the shredder and watched the envelope disappear, strip by strip. Forgiveness? Maybe one day. Trust? That bridge had burned to ash. These days, our home feels different. It sounds different. It's filled with music, Emily humming while doing homework, singing softly while brushing her hair. It's filled with laughter, David making awkward dad jokes at dinner, and both of us laughing too hard anyway. It's filled with life. David took a permanent job here in Harrison.
He's home by 6.
We cook together. We clean together. We hold each other accountable. And we hold each other close. Emily doesn't crack her bedroom door open anymore at night. She sleeps soundly. She walks with confidence. She hugs without hesitation. We don't mention Sandra or Melissa anymore. Not because it hurts, but because they just don't matter. That part of the story? It's over.
We chose peace.
We chose healing. We chose each other. And most importantly, we chose to never, ever live in fear again. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you feel something real, please take a moment to like the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced a moment where choosing peace meant walking away from people you once called family? And if you enjoy powerful, emotional stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next. Thank you for watching. Remember, you deserve peace. You deserve safety. You deserve to live without fear.